Congrats again to the Huskies, unseeded, an incredible run there to the Natty. On the hardwood, two Big Ten teams are among the last few remaining unbeaten teams in the country. Second-ranked Michigan has not just been winning, but steamrolling opponents en route to a 10-0 start. They've won their last 5 games by an average of 31 points. Then how about the 15th-ranked Nebraska Cornhuskers? A bit of a surprise in the Big Ten, 11-0 after a statement win on the road at Illinois last weekend. All right, it's time to play a little game called Stock Up, Stock Down, and we're going to talk about some of the teams whose stock is up in your mind, Jordan Taylor, starting with the second-ranked Michigan Wolverines. Unbeaten, as we just pointed out, they've scored 100 or more points in 4 of their last 5 games, average margin of victory being 31. So I think it's kind of stating the obvious to say their stock is up, but maybe what impresses you most about the Wolverines so far?
Yeah, well, I know you haven't been to Perkins, but I'm sure you've seen Space Jam, right?
So mind blown by the whole Perkins thing, by the way.
So they remind me, right?
Space Jam.
You have seen Space Jam, so that's what they remind me of right now. I know it sounds crazy. I'm going to step out on a limb and obviously say their stock is up. Their stock is so high right now, you probably might not want to buy it. But they make you think of the Nerdlucks when they get all their power. You know, Amara looking like Sean Bradley out there. Namari Burnett is Larry Johnson. When they get out in transition, it is unbelievable. They actually can be had defensively in transition. They're the number 1 ranked defense in the country, number 1 2-point field goal ranked defense in the country. But where they can get got is if you push the ball at them, and also in ball screen defense because they are in a drop. But the impressive thing is when they get scored on, it's almost like they don't even care. The ball comes out of the net so fast. Morez Johnson gets to the front of the rim. Mara gets to the front of the rim. Elliot Cadeau is pushing in pace. And then you have the cyborg, Yaxel Lendenborg. He pushes it at you with pace and skill and size, and there's just not a lot of answers for them from a defensive perspective.
You just brought up a couple names that Coach Dusty May picked up in the transfer portal. UCLA transfer Di Mara, one of them. Morez Johnson Jr. coming over from Illinois. When you look at the way that Coach May built this team, built this roster via the transfer portal, what sticks out about maybe the balance that you're seeing, what they're able to do both offensively and defensively? But I just look at the personnel and say, wow, what a job that Coach May has done.
Well, when we got in the portal at first, I was kind of looking at it like, Elliot Cadeau had struggled shooting threes at North Carolina, and Coach May last year had so much shooting on the floor. And then you bring in Mara and Johnson, not great shooters. So I was kind of looking at it like, they got all these bigs, how are you going to space the floor? But to me, it's more the coach speaks to the coaching job. It's the same principle, same philosophy. They're going to run with pace and space. And then Lendenberg is really like Danny Wolf on steroids, which is a crazy thing to say. It's a first-round pick. But what he can do with the ball allows Johnson to kind of run the rim. He's done a great job at stepping out to 3. So the balance that they have offensively, they figured out. Took them a minute to start the season. Wake Forest gave them problems, TCU a little bit, but now it's figured out. And then I would say defensively what you have is those guys inside. It's impossible, but it's really Namari Burnett and Roddy Gale's length and size. For a guard, they don't pressure you crazy, but you can't see anything. I'm 6'2". Don't tell anybody I said that, but I am 6'2", I promise. But going into the land of guys like that,
shoes.
You asking too many questions. You know what I'm saying? But with or without that, or with or without shoes, you get in the paint against guys like that, and you just can't see. It's impossible to score and make decisions unless you're really early and on time.
It's interesting. It's giving shades of last year when so many people questioned with 2 7-footers in the front court, how is this Michigan offense and defense going to run? And they found a way, Coach May and his staff, with incredible vision to put the pieces together and make it all work, and make it work so quickly in the season. That's the other thing that stands out to me. Now, the question moving forward is, what is the biggest challenge going to be for Michigan? Once they get into the heart of Big Ten play, it's a grind.
To me, it's going to be the mental side of it for them. Like you saw against Maryland, they were down 9 in the second half, and they won the game by 20. And that was 9 with like 14 minutes left in the game. So when you're that good, you relax. And I think they did relax against Maryland in that first half. And you can beat anybody. All it takes in this tough conference, and you're out on that West Coast, or you got to go to Iowa on a Wednesday night and deal with that intensity and defense. You fall asleep for too long, and you're going to get got. But the good side is they clearly have shown they can turn it on when they want. But you're running up against all these guards now. You think about Donovan Dent. You think about Desmond Claude. David Coit had 25 points in the first half. And again, to reiterate, that's where they can be got. It's a tough way to live, but in the mid-range, guards getting buckets, getting downhill, and finding guys, if it's a good high IQ guard, that's where their weakness is.
Still a long way to go. We all know that, but Michigan's certainly looking like national title contenders, rather, based on the early portion of the season. They got a couple non-con home games before facing USC to start off in 2026. Okay, so Michigan was a team a lot of people had high expectations for coming into the year. The Nebraska Cornhuskers, maybe not so much, but they're off to an 11-0 start for the first time in program history after this buzzer-beating win over Illinois, 13th ranked at the time. Jamarcus Lawrence hit that three to seal the deal, 83-80 upset. The Huskers are 15th in this week's AP poll, their highest ranking since 1991. This Nebraska team, led by head coach Fred Hoiberg, beyond exceeding expectations, I think it's fair to say, and that's not a shot at the Huskers, but just looking at the roster on paper, I don't think anyone expected them to be not just winning, but some wins, dominant, and then knocking off top 15 teams like Illinois. What stood out to you about the way the Huskers have been playing here in the early going?
Oh, it's the discipline. The discipline that they play with both offensively and defensively, I think is as good, if not better, than anybody in the country right now. When I say discipline, it's they don't make mistakes. If you watch them on defense, a good defensive team, you can always tell by where the low man is. And you can see right here, Rink Mass is guarding the perimeter because of Illinois' ability to spread you out. Look at his defensive positioning right here. He's in the low man. He's pointing. He's 7 feet. That's not a normal spot for him. He's used to being up at the level of the screen. And then when you got to switch roles, now it's Ham Hoiberg. He's in the low man. Rink Mask is up at the level. They do not make mistakes. They force offenses to make multiple decisions time and time again. And at this level, there's just not a lot of guys. Guards want to score. The average points per game by guards in the country, most is 40% between the 1 and the 2 is the D1 average. So when they got to start passing that ball and getting off of it, guys don't want to do that. They want to get to the right. They want to get to the Baja. You know what I'm saying?
Look, defense is great. Everybody loves that. However, the offense for me has really been a standout factor for the Huskers. It's not just Rink Mass, who's back from injury, of course, a hub for them, receiving the ball oftentimes in the high post, can score in a variety of ways. But Coach Hoiberg has really improved this roster in terms of the outside shooting. You look at Price Sanford, Big Ten co-player of the week, went off for 32 points against Illinois. Based on the balance that you're seeing from this Nebraska offense, could they go all the way with a variety of ways they can score?
Well, I'm not ready to go that far yet. This is a stat conference,
could they be
but they
Big Ten
good.
title contenders, maybe?
Yeah, I mean,
is that
I think,
a fair question to ask at this point?
In this conference, look, I actually just was talking with a Nebraska Cornhusker fan. They were saying, Nebraska's top 4. And if you look at the Big Ten over the last 5 years, third place is like 12-8, and 11th place is like 10-10.
Yeah,
so it's like there's not. So of course, yeah, they can get there.
Little room for error.
And I know Husker fans had to be sick when you see what Bryce Williams did last year and not having Rink Mass out on the floor. So you're almost happy for them to see kind of the redemption arc, and you get Price Sanford. He looks just like his brother right now, Peyton. They literally shot looks the same.
Yep.
Confidence looks the same. But then what impresses me the most is their front court depth with Rink Mass, with Price Sanford. But then you mix in a guy, Jared Glover, who's coming over from Tulsa. What he did against Illinois, he took over late and had a couple tough buckets down the stretch that were huge. Jamarcus Lawrence is finding his footing as well. And I think their role clarity and discipline is unmatched right now. They fit together perfectly, and everything is hitting on all cylinders.
You just mentioned a name we have not talked maybe enough about in point guard Jamarcus Lawrence. Unique situation, transfers out of Nebraska to Rhode Island, comes back to rejoin the Huskers, and is playing with the confidence we have not seen him play with before. How would you evaluate Lawrence's fit so far back with the team and how he's been playing?
Well, I think him and Sam Hoiberg together, again, goes into that role clarity and fit. Jamarcus Lawrence is capable of playing the 1 and the 2, and Sam Hoiberg does not make mistakes. I wonder where he got that from, because he literally, if you got to push a button, he's pushing the right one. But Lawrence, with that shot now, he's going the right direction. You talk about buying stock. That when you hit a shot like that, all that does for you is make you believe anything is possible. And with him playing the way he's playing, and then you have Price Sanford, who is literally a fast break in and of itself when he runs the floor and is shooting threes the way he is. Rink Mass does everything. He runs the rim, plays through the high post like you mentioned. He guards. He is honestly the best player in the conference right now to me, and that's including the cyborg that we talked about earlier. But again, Jamarcus Lawrence, if he can continue to get in the paint and make shots, Nebraska could potentially be a title contender.
All right, man, I was trying to get you with a hot take. Yeah. Not today, though.
Nah, you
not
can't.
today, though.
I wake up early to get me.
All right, so you've got two teams who you've got stock up in Michigan and Nebraska. Neither of those may be huge surprises. The Huskers coming along here as the season has progressed. But Washington is a team whose stock you say is up, which may be a little bit of a surprise. They've rattled off 2 straight wins, including a 105-point outburst in their dominant win over Southern Utah last weekend. 6 Huskies scored in double figures in that one, with Heinz Steinbach and Wesley Yates leading the way with 14 points apiece. All right, why Washington?
Well, you wanted a hot take. There it is. You
All
got
right.
it right there. Washington. You ready? You there?
Yeah, I'm ready.
You're going to get me in trouble. See, look. No, Washington.
Big Ten title contenders, right?
Big Ten title. Of course. You know, it's the Big Ten. Like I said, anybody can win. But
that's true.
Washington, because of their depth this year. You know, last year I think they struggled with injuries at times. This year, early, some injuries. But then also their ability to score with anybody. They took arguably a top 5 guard. Actually, hot take. He is a top 5 guard. Desmond Claude, last year, his second half of the season in USC can score the ball just as well as anybody in the conference and in the country. And now you add in Steinbach, who's literally 17 and 12. He's playing like a potential player of the year candidate right now. Wesley Yates, we saw what he did in his freshman campaign. But then guys like Lathan Somerville and what he did at Rutgers. He's a really talented sophomore. He can shoot the ball, stretch the defense. If they can figure out some of their problems with transition defense and just half-court defense overall, which to me is you would attribute that to the continuity. They don't have a ton of that, only 16% of the minutes from last year back. But when they start to get that communication down and figure out how to guard and string together stops, they're going to be a handful offensively. And then Steinbach, 12th in the country in offensive rebound percentage. He's always creating extra possessions.
You mentioned there not being continuity, but the way that Coach Danny Sprinkle rebuilt this roster via the transfer portal, another coach that you got to shout out, really impressive in terms of what he's been able to build. And then I also look at the level of buy-in from this Washington program. You look at the way they battled back against USC, battled back against UCLA, came up just short in that one. What have you seen from the culture piece from Coach Sprinkle in his second year at the helm?
Yeah, I mean, I think you saw it at Utah State. He's a winner, right? When you bring that winning mentality, that's something that you can, that travels. You know that. It goes with you anywhere you want to go. If you get people to buy into the discipline part, which they do offensively, then it's very easy to bring people along. And I would say in this day and age, too, it kind of works in that backwards way where when guys are scoring and they're sharing the ball, they'll start to play defense. When I was playing, it's like you had to play defense to get on the floor, man. I need some eligibility back. I don't know if my back would hold up. You saw me get up at this desk earlier, but I would love to.
Break the desk.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So I'm just trying to stay healthy. But yeah, so I think just getting that buy-in from getting that continuity from an offensive perspective will definitely lead to more buy-in on the defensive side of the ball.
You mentioned the transition defense. Anything else that's going to be an Achilles heel for the Washington Huskies looking ahead to Big Ten play?
Yeah, I think it is kind of that depth that they have, particularly at the guard position. You see Steinbach averages 18 a game. Wesley Yates is averaging 16, and Zoom Diallo is around 13. And that doesn't even bring in Desmond Claude yet, J.J. Mandequit. So they got a lot of mouths to feed over there. But, again, I think that it's a good mix, right? Desmond Claude and Zoom Diallo are similar in nature. But if they can figure that out, Wesley Yates is a natural 2-3, just how they're going to play off of each other. Again, they got a lot of the right pieces that they need.
I do want to follow up on Desmond Claude because he was one of the breakout stars for me, as you mentioned earlier, last year in the latter half of the Big Ten season, a 3-level scorer, really high IQ player. How have you seen him grow here now in the Big Ten Conference once again?
Yeah, well, I think it remains to be seen. I think the biggest part that he's grown is coming off of an injury, especially a lower body injury, and letting the game come to him. You know, in that first couple games back, it was kind of slow. UCLA had maybe, I think, 5-6 points, struggled from the field. First half of that USC game, he didn't force anything, and then you could just kind of see the switch turned on, and then it was 18 in that second half against USC. And now when guys have it rolling, like Steinbach, like Wesley Yates, he's not trying to overbear them or come in and make a statement that he's the man, at least not visually. So if he can continue to do that and kind of allow other guys to breathe and then find his game, then they'll be all right.
Got to talk to Claude a couple times here on Big Ten Today last season. Really good leadership, good culture piece. Just seems like a really humble individual, someone that other guys will want to follow. If he continues to set the tone for this Washington team, Big Ten title contenders.
You said it, not me. If it works out, I said it.
Hey, listen, it's never too early. Take on UTSA, followed by the Ducks against Portland. Coverage begins at 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Pacific on the Big Ten Network and the Fox Sports app. Purdue guard Braden Smith is smashing records left and right, picking up right where he left off last season. On December 10th, he became the first player in Big Ten history with 1,500 points, 800 assists, and 500 rebounds. The reigning Big Ten Player of the Year and preseason pick is a clear frontrunner to run it back and win the award again. Jordan Taylor back here with more hot takes on Big Ten today, and we're going to talk about some of your preseason Player of the Year candidates. Braden Smith, as I just mentioned, the clear front runner here, leading one of the best teams, not just in the Big Ten, but in the country as Purdue looks to run it back and chase a natty. Is Smith the clear front runner for you, or what would you say the second half of his season has to look like for him to win this award yet again?
Yeah, I think just keep doing what he's been doing, maybe a little bit more efficient from the field. But Yaxel Lendenborg obviously will be making a case about that. Bruce Thornton as well. But Braden, he's like the Kylan Mills of basketball. He gives you the entertainment value, and he's also tactically sound. He is, I can watch him all day in the pick and roll, and you can break it down. He knows when to stretch out defenders. He knows when to get downhill. He literally sees everything. He has eyes in the back of his head, and I do not mean that metaphorically. He is overly impressive. He's a joy. And then you partner him with P.J. Thompson, who honestly probably doesn't get enough credit as an offensive coach. Obviously has helped him extend his game and grow and mature, and obviously coach paint. But yeah, he's up there. But we got to get into, the non-Braden Smith POIs.
Right, because everyone knows who Braden Smith is in this conference. You better get to know who wing Yaxel Lendenborg is, the leading scorer for the Michigan Wolverines, a player who can score in a variety of ways, has some good defending in him as well, has only played basketball, Jordan, for 5 years, organized basketball for 5 years, which blows my mind. What stands out about his game?
God, everything. I mean, he's not built like a regular human being. The way he moves, again, another metaphor that probably gets overused is a man amongst boys, but he literally looks like that out there. Like, he gets to the rim effortlessly. You see the finish right there. It's the up and under. He's 6'9", 6'10", and then you see him in the dunker. For playing for only 5 years, but understanding spacing and timing and where to be and where other guys are going to be. He's got a little point guard in him. He can spot up and shoot the three. He can play the 5. He can play the 2. He's just an impossible matchup. I honestly don't know how he got guarded at UAB last year. I need to go back and watch some tape because he's incredible.
Lendenborg with that unique skill set where he can play on the outside, he can get it done on the inside, and this Michigan Wolverines team, one of the hottest in the country, certainly a name you expect to be in that conversation towards the end of the season. Another name who very well could be in that conversation come the end of the season is Nebraska big man Rink Mast, who we mentioned a little bit at the top of the show, but the numbers are eye-popping this year. 18 points per game, 6.5 boards, 3 assists because that playmaking ability he has in the high post, shooting more than 42% from beyond the arc for a big man. That is ridiculous stuff, Jordan Taylor.
Yeah, it is. It's crazy, and that's not even a hot take. That's just a fact, right?
No.
So the way, as you mentioned, playing out of the high post or the pinch post, you can run everything off them. They run a lot of zoom action for Price Sanford, and what that does to the defense is you can't go under on Sanford, you can't leave Mass, and you can't switch because he can play on the post. So your best option is kind of just to chase Price Sanford and stay glued to Mass, and then Price either going to get a layup. If you do something different, you see him putting it on the deck there. He's going to get in the paint and spray out to shooters. You see this increasingly in college basketball right now, is playing through the bigs. But Rink Mast does it quite literally better than everybody in the conference. There was one clip he had earlier in the year. I think it was against Creighton the other day. He's running the floor, and he ran to a spot for 3 like he was Klay Thompson or Price Sanford and spotted up and knocked down a 3 from the top of the key. But he's amazing, and he's got Nebraska rolling. Everything runs through him.
Another player whose skill set is ridiculous, more of that modern big in terms of what he can do from the outside. Maybe not the fastest footed, though, in terms of defending on the outside, but he sure can knock down the outside shot and make it look easy. Another name that you're high on is Bruce Thornton as a possible Big Ten Player of the Year contender. Why is that?
Because I don't think he's missed a shot all year long. I think he's 65, 56 from 3 at one point, over 80% from the free throw line. And there's no way he's 6'2", with shoes on or not. So again, I shot about 44% from the floor, and it was hard, very hard. He gets in the paint, he puts his body into you, he contorts his body, he finishes. If you go under on the screen, he's going to knock down shots. And then against Northwestern, you see that tape, he turned into a playmaker. So he has that playmaker in him, like Braden Smith, more of a natural scorer. And having guys like Brandon Noel, Tilly, moving Royal over to the 3, and then Junie Thornton doesn't get enough credit for being a playmaker as well. It's allowed Bruce Thornton to get off the ball, and sometimes when he's playing, it doesn't even look like he's breaking a sweat.
Averaging nearly 22 points per game. So you might be right in how many shots has he actually missed this year. Bruce Thornton's been having an outstanding campaign. Who else stands out to you as potential early Player of the Year candidates?
Well, there's a couple. I got it. I'm a little bit of a homer. I'll be honest with you. I got it.
A little bit?
Just
I've never heard you mention Minnesota.
Minnesota for the players that don't go to Minnesota, but Wisconsin.
Or Wisconsin.
Wisconsin. So it's like John Blackwell is up there. I had him in there before. Obviously, he had a tough opening Big Ten night against Nebraska. That defense is impressive, only 7 points. But before that, averaging 29 in his last 3, shooting over 50% from 3. He went to the NBA draft combine, tested the waters. And obviously, the feedback was, hey, you got to shoot the rock, young fella. So he came back doing that. But what he has to do now is get in the paint and try and make Wisconsin a better team by putting pressure on the defense as well.
Blackwell, one of those microwave scorers who can heat up in a hurry. Big Ten Player of the Week back on December 8th, averaged 28 points per game and 6 boards across 2 wins for the Badgers that week. By the way, Jordan Taylor from Minneapolis, Minnesota, went to Wisconsin. Don't bring up either of those places if you don't want to get into a long conversation with him if you happen to see him out on the street, okay? Little bit of a homer, just slightly. Well, coming up after some men's basketball news to get to. The USC men's hoops team and Browns men's basketball programs have announced a mutual agreement to cancel their non-conference games scheduled for Sunday, December 21st. Based on an announcement from the school, the entire USC community is sending out its support to Brown University following the tragedy that took place on campus this past weekend in terms of a shooting that impacted students, staff, alumni in the city of Providence. The Trojans will play against a different opponent on Sunday, December 21st at 1 p.m. in the Galen Center. More information will be released soon. It is time now for today's Big Stat, brought to you by Gatorade. We are zeroing in on the Big Ten's freshman scoring leaders who have played in at least 7 games this season. Washington's Hans Steinbach, a name that we brought up earlier in the show, averaging 18 points per game, blistering hot. Illinois' Keaton Wagler, a player to keep an eye on. Penn State's Caden Mingo, and the list goes on in terms of some freshmen who've been off to a hot start in their collegiate careers. Jordan, back here now to break down which one of those guys, or maybe some others that you feel like are early Freshman of the Year candidates. Let's start with Caden Mingo, the freshman guard for Penn State, who's had hit double figures in scoring, I should say, in all but 1 game this season. He's been really impressive in terms of the consistency. The skill set is there. What makes him a Freshman of the Year candidate in your eyes?
Well, his pace and his patience. You watch him, he's only shooting 20% from the 3-point line, which for a freshman sometimes can be a stamp of death to get on the floor. Not for him. When he gets below the free throw line, a lot of times the game speeds up for so many guards. I remember my first basket in college. I got below the free throw line, got so nervous, threw it off the top of the backboard. I thought I threw it over, and it banked in for a floater. But this kid, when he gets down there, he is just, he's outstanding. We got to see him against Michigan State, as you know, has been the best defense over the last 20 years. He almost put up a triple-double. So just his poise, his patience is next level.
Mingo's elite change of pace as well, so difficult to defend. And then on the defensive end, I know that's usually a huge adjustment for freshmen. Do you see room for improvement there in terms of being a potential Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year candidate down the line?
100%. His length, he's about 6'3", 195.
Yep. And he's so quick.
Penn State top 20 in the country in steal percentage, and that's him leading the offense. They also don't turn the ball over. So to your point, the way that they guard and the way that he handles that offense for a freshman, I hate to say this, but now the biggest question, hopefully he stays in Happy Valley, right? But Happy Valley has done it again, a long list of guards, Taylor Battle, Tim Frazier, DJ Newbill, Jalen Pickett. That's all. They got a lot of guards out there on that East Coast. So definitely, to your point, though, he had high upside defensively as well.
The sad thing is it all comes down to staying in one place, which is the big question in college basketball right now. Every single year, coaches are having to recruit their own players, but the future certainly seems bright for Caden Mingo. What about Washington's Heinz Steinbach? Another name we brought up earlier in the show because you like the Huskies, but what do you like about this freshman specifically?
Oh, man, top 12, top 15 in the country in offensive rebound percentage. He is relentless. Same thing, again, these freshmen are different now. I don't know what they're doing, but he gets on the glass nonstop. He also has a great touch around the rim. He can finish above the rim, as you see right there. You saw the spin move with the touch. No secret, though, from Würzburg, Germany. You know, you ever been there?
I have not. I can't say I have.
Well, you know who has. Dirk Nowitzki has been to Würzburg, Germany. That's where he's from. So a long lineage of basketball, playing forwards from that area of the world. And Hans Steinbach, quite frankly, he's in that. He's making a case for Player of the Year. He probably should be in that conversation. If you want another hot take, there it goes.
Oh, I love it. We're just racking them up here on the show. When I watch Steinbach play, though, the composure and the high IQ are a couple of things that impress me because oftentimes for a freshman, it takes a little bit of time to make the right reads, but it seems like he does most of the time. What have you seen from his ability to read the game?
Well, he's 6'10", so he can see everything. And he actually gets to play. It just doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt when you're amongst the trees. But he actually has some of that ability that we were talking about a little earlier with Rink Mask in a different way. He catches it out on the perimeter as opposed to that high post. And then because he's so big and so patient, he just gets his guy on his hip. He can spin, and if someone comes at him, he plays in such a slow, not slow, but in a patient way that if you run somebody at him, he can just see over the top of you. And if you don't run somebody at him, he's so good with angles, his body, shoulders, and finishing at the rim with that touch that we talked about.
Illinois' Keaton Wagler, another name we have to mention. What makes him so effective?
Gosh, he's 6'6", can shoot the ball, can make the right reads. A lot of shades from last year. They had a guy who literally looks just like Keaton Wagler, Will Riley. And to be honest, I think Keaton Wagler looks like he's ahead of Will Riley in some ways at this stage. Will Riley started the season off so strong last year, obviously a first-round draft pick, but I don't think he was as good at making decisions as Keaton Wagler out of pick and roll when he puts the ball on the floor. And I think Keaton Wagler actually is a little bit more physically sturdy than Will Riley was. So a lot of good things to see, or a lot of good things from Keaton Wagler early on.
The Illini certainly have a good track record in terms of outstanding freshmen. Kasparis Yakachonis, a name that people might remember from last year. Wagler, another one who certainly has a bright future ahead. Up next, the American investor and entrepreneur Alexis Ohanian was one of several big names to attend the annual Michigan Sport Business Conference. The event is the largest student-run conference in the country, and they do an excellent job. Dave Revson has more.
Thrilled to have Bryn Stein with us now, the media relations manager for the Michigan Sports Business Conference, or the former media relations manager, right? Because this thing is in the past. Yep. But give us a sense of what the Michigan Sports Business Conference is every year.
Yes. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. Michigan Sport Business Conference is a completely student-run sport business conference. Takes place at the University of Michigan, held in October. This past year is October 17th. Basically consists of about 40 students who put together this conference that has panelists, networking opportunities, and really just a great way for students at Michigan interested in sports, maybe not interested in sports, to just have real-world experience and hearing from industry professionals, as well as getting their name out there, their foot in the door with how to network, and really exposing them to the sports world.
So give us a sense for some of the panelists.
Yeah. Some of the panelists this past year, our keynotes were Alexis Ohanian, co-founder Reddit. We got Grant Hill, and then we had some panelists, Duncan Robinson, Brandon Graham, and then we have some Olympic panels with Larry Friedman, Amy Hoppenfinger, really just people all across the industry, whether it's the Olympic panels, whether it's sports investment panel. We really try to get a range of folks.
And give me a sense for what your role was in all this.
Yes. So as media relations manager, I was working on the partnerships team, so bringing in partnerships for the conference, whether it be for networking, marketing partnerships, but also my role specifically was with our media outlets, working with bringing in media to expose the conference and let people know of what's going on. And so really just working on bringing in those media outlets.
So what kind of media outlets were you able to secure?
Other than this one, it's pretty cool.
This is massive right here.
Yeah. I was working with the Sports Intern, so I did a couple articles with them, and then the lab, I did a podcast. Those were more the social media based networks. And then day of conference, a lot of the Michigan, we had Wolf TV, kind of the more Michigan tiered outlets that come in and bring the conference to what it is. We went to Big Noon Kickoff a couple weeks ago and just interviewed some of the guys over there. So just some fun ways to promote the conference.
What do you think the biggest things you've learned from your involvement in this are?
Last year I was on the marketing team. This year on partnerships. I would say it's really giving me hands-on exposure experience into a conference that operates like a business, whether we have marketing, event planning, partnerships, all these different teams come together. And so we're all doing our little areas of our work and coming together and puts on this real conference. So it's our work really, it's really what you make of it, is what you get out of it.
What's the time frame on this? So for instance, I know it happens every year because we've had someone on from it in recent years, from kind of conception to, okay, we know we're going to do it, do it every year. We got to get started on next year. When does that start? You mentioned mid-October is when the conference happens. What's the pattern here?
So I mean, we just had our conference about a month ago, and right away they transition, they start recruiting for next year. They secured their co-presidents for this upcoming year, and so now it's really just repositioning the team internally and bringing in now we're seniors who are leaving, we're washed, so we can bring in the new people.
Is that the term, washed?
Washed.
You've washed your hands of the affair?
I'm like, all right,
okay.
my work is done.
Yeah.
No, but so really just now bringing in, there'll probably be about 10 new spots for new incoming freshmen, sophomores to come in and engage with the conference. And so now they get into recruiting, and then come after winter break, it's meeting with our alumni to see what worked from last year, see what not, and then it's bring in the partners, start securing the speakers, and then it's summer. Summer are our months that we're grinding, because we come back to school, October hits, and so it really just comes quickly.
You mentioned some of the panelists. What's the target audience in terms of obviously Michigan students are part of it. Is it exclusively Michigan students that attend, or are there others? Yeah, so we obviously target our Michigan students. We were heavily focused on our sport business students. Now we're really trying to target our just business students, our art students, really hitting the whole realm at Michigan. But then we have a marketing manager who works to bring in, outside of the Big Ten, other non-Michigan students who want to come in and explore the conference, see what it is, and then we also hit industry professionals, so other industry professionals who want to come and network and experience what the conference is. Obviously, we get a lot of Michigan alum, but we try to hit not just the Michigan alum and people all over the country. How well attended is it? It's we've exceeded 1,100 students, students, industry professionals, past few years. So marketing has been doing a great job, and while marketing is we are very efficient with our marketing, I will say now with how we've established on campus, it really does a good job marketing itself as well. So a lot of students are aware, and especially in the sports business school, the professors make it mandatory, and students want to, but they're very much so pushed to go and talk about their experience. So I know this is an area that really interests you. What's something that you learned either in the process of planning this or even from a panelist that you think could help you in your career goals? Yeah, I would say that sports is definitely not just what you look at, and the entertainment aspect. The business side is so intricate, so you want to make it seem easy to the public eye, but it's really just the ins and outs, especially media. You really see all the behind the scenes that goes on, and being part of this conference has really exposed me to those behind the scenes and has made me even more intrigued, interested in how this business works. Is there a lesson in working with fellow students to put something like this on? It's a long time ago, but I have hazy recollections of doing similar things, because in a lot of ways what you're doing is modeling your career, right? Yes. You're going to be part of collaborative efforts. Sure. What's the biggest thing you learned about working with fellow students to put something bigger than yourselves on? Absolutely. Working with 40 students, you're all held accountable. And if one person is slacking, everyone feels it. And I think that goes hand in hand with a business. Everyone needs to put in the work. No one can slack. This conference is really what you put in, you get out of it. And if you see your work put in, you see it at the conference. If you don't put in the work, you're going to notice it, and everyone else is going to notice it. So really just shows how being held accountable has played a part in this experience and will help us shape our future aspirations as we graduate. Okay, I hesitate to ask you this because I'm the father of some college students myself, and every time I ask them a similar question, they roll their eyes and essentially say to leave them alone. But what do you want to do? Like, what's your career goal, and in what ways does this go hand in hand with your goals? Yes, my career goals, I mean, obviously I love sports, but it's not just my love for sports, it's my love for storytelling sports. So whether that be in media, whether that be just in creating a market or whatnot, I just have a passion for exposing myself to how everyone else views these media outlets and views sports. So I would say just trying to continue that pathway and, figure out as I'm going. And sports comes at you quickly. So these opportunities, you got to just jump on and see where it takes you. But just trying to figure out where my path leads me. Well, it can take you in some fun places, I will tell you that. I hope so. Bryn Stein, really appreciate it. Congratulations on the conference. Congratulations to you and all your colleagues. I know you're the face of this, the front of this. But man, what an impressive group. And every year I'm blown away by the student, whoever it is who comes to visit with us. Similar story here this year, and best of luck going forward. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Tonight, don't miss women's hoops when Lauren Betts leads 4th-ranked UCLA against Cal Poly. Live coverage begins at 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Pacific on the Big Ten Network and the Fox Sports app. 2 Big Ten men's hoops non-conference games also coming up tonight. The 9th-ranked Michigan State Spartans looking for their 2nd straight win as they host Toledo. Later on in the evening, Northwestern hosts Valpo. The Wildcats looking to continue moving in the right direction. Jordan Taylor back to talk more about those 2 teams, though maybe they're not the most scintillating matchups per se, but let's zoom out and talk a little bit about Michigan State for starters. A top 10 team in the nation, hung with Duke, came up just short, but they've been impressive playing typical Tom Izzo basketball, hard defense, rebounding the ball well, and I'd make the argument that their outside shooting has gotten better. Would you say the same? And do you think that this Michigan State team has a ton of potential?
Feels like a setup with the hot take again, huh? And also, I got to add,
I
got to add scintillating to my vocab. Yeah, but no, I think they're Michigan State, run, rebound, run, same thing, right? And I think we talked about off air the way that they guard. If you can make teams make multiple decisions on offense at this level, at the collegiate level, guys just don't want to do it, and that's what they do. Jackson Kohler is tremendous at the point of attack, and it shows. Carson Cooper the same, and then obviously Jeremy Fears is great. All the guards do a great job. And then they're shooting the ball better, to your point, on the road, shooting about 12 percentage points better. Divine Ugachukwu was fantastic.
What a name.
What a name. Divine alone. He was divine against Penn State. And then Izzo, he just pushes the right buttons. That was actually a coaching chess match against Penn State on Saturday. Both those guys did a fantastic job, but it was Izzo in the end, kind of a little misdirection finding Ugachukwu on that old Warriors play, the pin in from the baseline, and he knocked down a big shot, as you see it right there. So, but yeah, Michigan State, if they can make shots, they can do it. But then you get into Jeremy Fears, and, Ken Pom has him as a top 5 player in the conference right now. That's Ken Pom's hot take, not my hot take.
Sorry,
things flying over here.
Earring mishap here on the desk. You love live TV. To follow up on Jeremy Fears, though, averaging nearly 10 assists per game, Coach Izzo has talked about the fact that his leadership has come leaps and bounds from where he was at a year ago. He looks like he's in command running this Michigan State offense. What have you noticed maybe about the way that he's carrying himself or the way that he's running the team?
Well, he struggled from the floor, actually, the last 2 games, and it hasn't stopped him. His defensive intensity is always there. Izzo required, of course, but that's also who's in him. It was really cool. I was at Summer League in July, and I got to run into his mom. And his mom was with Jeremiah, obviously got drafted. But just speaking to her for a short amount of time, she probably wouldn't remember me from Adam, but you really got the sense of what type of person her boys were. She had this amazing humility about her, but also you could just tell the fire, which it makes sense when you look at Jeremy. I got to, last year at the Big Ten tournament, he did not stop talking on the court, but you saw the type of competitor he was, which was really cool to see up close.
Michigan State also has the X factor of being coached by Tom Izzo, one of the greats in the sport. They're going to be a fun team to watch in Big Ten play. Northwestern, a team maybe trying to figure things out, get right. A totally new roster outside of Nick Martinelli, of course, the centerpiece from last year and the Big Ten's leading scorer. What are some of the keys for the Wildcats moving forward? Just
continuing to get better. They have some young guys. Chris Collins, obviously, again, Big Ten has countless good coaches, probably 18 of them to be exact. But, I think it's really trying to figure out their identity. Between Arrington Page and Nick Martinelli, those are probably the 2 most talented players. And then you mix in the freshman Simpson. That it's how do you get those guys on the floor together, because they're all kind of that 4-5 position. And then you mix in with the young fella, Angelo Cheravino. If he can start making shots, he'll give them some options. But really and truly, it's simple. Can they play defense? Can they rebound? And then they've been better in transition. So just trying to be opportunistic and string together stops.
It also helps that you have a player in Martinelli who can get you a bucket. Like, he's a guy you can give the ball to late in games, and he will find a way. 2 incredible buzzer beaters last year. To have his leadership is huge on the floor.
Yeah, Nick Martinelli is a pit bull, man. He just doesn't stop. I got to do the Ohio State game, 18-6 in the first half. He's rebounding. His natural thing is to put his head down, but he's actually improved his skill set, 71% from 3, and a great touch around the rim now as well.
All right, great stuff, Jordan. I guess we got to run to Perkins, right?
You want to go?
Next stop.
Come on.
All right.
Say less.
We got to go figure out what all that is about. Well, that does it for this edition of Big Ten Today. Have a great rest of your Tuesday, everyone.